Roger Goodell acknowledges the league's Rooney Rule isn't doing enough to help minority coaches land head coaching jobs. Delivering his State of the NFL address, Goodell says he's frustrated by the lack of progress. The commissioner vows the league will reevaluate its efforts to promote diversity to see if any changes need to be made.
I think there is no finish line with diversity and inclusion. I think that's something that constantly we have to keep at the forefront of everything we do. This is an opportunity for us to step back, look at what we're doing, look what we should be doing, and how we can lead to better results.
Now, who you see here, former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores is stoking this conversation. He's filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL for discrimination after he says the New York Giants hosted him for a sham interview with the white head coach already in mind. The NFL calls his suit without merit. That's a quote. So I reached out to former NFL defensive back John Booty to hear what he thinks about the state of the league. Well, we talked about the Rooney Rule, which requires NFL teams to interview minorities during their hiring process. This was put into place back in 2003. He says even though it was an attempt at racial equality in coaching jobs, it's not working. And when they do get those jobs, it's like walking a tightrope.
We don't need a dog and pony show. We need to give the African American coaches an interview just for say I checked that box. You know, these coaches have shown that they can be a coordinator and make things happen, and so they need an opportunity. But give the African American coaches the opportunity to go out there and show that they. But not only just give them an opportunity, but give them the time to build a culture. And you have longevity.
John also played when there were almost no black quarterbacks either, so he's no stranger to this. We also talked about how this lawsuit might affect Brian Flores' career. So to see the full conversation, you can check my Twitter and Facebook page right now. I'm at Robert 7 News.
It's an important conversation, especially because there's so many black players and little representation in the leadership.
Okay.
All right. So wanted to get your thoughts on a few things. One is, you know, the lack of black coaches that's continued to be a problem over the years. And then, you know, Brian Flores, who's suing the NFL. I want to get your thoughts on that too. The Washington Commanders, you know, they're being investigated still by the House committee. And one interesting thing is that Dan Snyder gets to have the final say on whether these documents and these reports get to be released to the public, which to me, I don't get that. I've never understood that, but we can talk about that. First, I want to talk about the situation with the NFL and black coaches, so the racial discrimination. And, you know, it's clear it's been an ongoing issue for years and years and years now. And then you have Brian Flores, who was brave enough to come out and just flat out sue the NFL and say, hey, this is racial discrimination. What are your thoughts on this? Because, I mean, not only did you play, but you've witnessed this trend in the NFL over the years. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, going back to the history of the National Football League, at one point in time, there were no black quarterbacks, and there was a thinking man's position, they were saying, and the middle linebackers and safeties were the same, you know, until there was a time that some black quarterbacks got out there and made some plays, as far as Warren Moon and Doug Williams, who set the tone for a number of African-American quarterbacks or minority quarterbacks. So stemming from there, you know, the history with the coaches, you know, Art Shell, he got his chance with the Raiders. You know, you credit Al Davis for doing that. And then the Rooney clause, you know, to interview minority coaches for the head coaching job positions. And it's been around for, I think, 20 years now. And we've had some African-American quarterbacks. Coaches. Tony Dungy won a Super Bowl. But again, that's not enough. You know, there's a lot of capable I keep saying quarterbacks. A lot of capable coaches out there that can get the job done. They offensive coordinators, the defensive coordinators, you know. And then once they get the job, credit to the Pittsburgh Steelers for keeping Tomlin around for a long time, and he's never had a losing season while he's been there. But you see people like Todd Bowles, who was with the New York Jets under a short lease. If you don't get the job done, you're out of there quickly.
He wasn't there long at all.
Right. So, it's like the standard is set so high for African-American coaches. And so that's like, wait a minute, give us a chance. And then you have some coaches come out there who's been fired, rehired with another team, then get a job just like that, who are not African-American. So he's not like, what? That's not fair. But again, the NFL have this rule in place, the Rooney Rule in place, and Commissioner Goodell, who's a friend of mine, and he works for the owners, and he said it's not right. We need to get this handled. But again, those coaches, deserving these opportunities, and then you still have 32 billionaires who runs the thing, and you say we don't need a dog and pony show. We to give the African American coaches an interview just for say I checked that box. These coaches have shown that they can be a coordinator and make things happen, and so they need that opportunity. Don't just parade the coach in and say, okay, we checked that box and here we go. I'm proud to see Lovie Smith in Houston, but I don't know if that lawsuit had any bearing on how the Houston Texas was going to move. You can tell I'm old because I played against
yeah, well,
so with Flores.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so with Flores, I heard him on doing an interview. He said, "Hey, if I don't, I love to get a job in the NFL. If I don't, but if there's some change for the better, more African American coaches are got these jobs. It's all done and good. It's a good thing. But again, once they get the job, once the African American coaches get the jobs and whatnot, and give them time and give them the leeway to make choices of the players. Because some of the coaches get in there and say, hey, give me let me get my foot in the door, and then I can bring in guys who I think who could be there to work with me. But I gotta, set a tone. So if you're in a high pressure situation like Washington or New York, out on the West Coast, a high profile city, I just to say, with a rapid fan base, sometimes I don't know if the owners listen to them. They want to get rid of folks quickly, But with the African American coaches, the Pittsburgh Steelers have shown they set an example, let this man do his job.
Here's my next question. Right. So, and shout out to Mike Tomlin, who's been there since, the beginning of time, darn near. But
so 16 years like that. Yeah.
So here's my next question, because we've seen things like, when after Colin Kaepernick knelt, he couldn't find an NFL job to save his life. Brian Flores.
Did you go?
I lost your video.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
What about now?
Yep.
Okay.
I got you. So, and Colin Kaepernick couldn't find a job to save his life after, he knelt. Do you think Brian Flores is risking being blacklisted by the NFL after filing a lawsuit, or is that possible, or what do you think of that?
Wow. Well, there is a risk, once you go up against the powers that be, the ownership, the league, and certain teams, that could put a mark on you, and it probably will. And then again, he may say, listen, I'm going out to shed light on what's happening. But at the same time, we can come together and say, listen, I was productive under some dire some circumstances that we all didn't know about, but he still had winners. He was a winner with Miami. And so by doing that, he should have the wherewithal and the track record to say, I can still win. I can still coach. I can still get the job done. Now, guess what? Al Davis, he fought the NFL for a number of years, right? In the NFL. But he was an owner, and they wasn't going to take the team from him. But again, the NFL still worked with Al Davis. So if this happening with Mike Flores, hey, listen, I'm shedding light, bringing light to things, so I still want to coach. And that could be a stepping stone or a way of saying, okay, we fought and we came on the same page. Now let's work together. I don't know. That could very well happen, but again, it could be like another Kaepernick, you know.
You never know. I mean, you never
Never
know.
know.
This, they might have a sour taste in their mouth after this, and he
Right.
can never find a job. And
Right.
But who's not to say he couldn't be a coordinator on somebody's team? But anyway, moving on.
Right. Okay.
Moving on. The Washington Commanders investigation is
Right.
they've been under investigation for workplace culture. Dan Snyder has hired another attorney to, investigate the workplace culture even further, and the mistreatment of the women in the organization. But my question to you is, now these documents, Dan Snyder has the ability to hold these documents from being released to the public.
Right.
And this is something, and released to, I want to say, the committee that's investigating this. If I'm correct, I'd have to double check that. But what do you think about that? Do you think these documents people should be able to know if there was any wrongdoing or if there was any malpractice within this organization?
That's the craziness of it all. It's like a public setting. An NFL team is like a public setting. You got people coming out to watch you play football and rooting for you and paying these tickets for it. And there was a situation that's going on like this. It turns into a private situation to protect, from what I understand, I want to protect everybody else who was involved, privacy. And at the end of the day, the person who's being investigated has the final say if he can release it publicly. I've never heard of stuff like that. I'm not an attorney or somebody who has that expertise in that, but it seems different. But at the same time, the NFL is still a part of it, still have their say so in what needs to happen. So a lot of allegations out there, a lot of things are going on. Hiring these not private investigator, but these attorneys, high-powered attorneys, who knows how to use that language to kind of get things over the common folks like me. So again, a long answer to your question is I haven't seen it before, and I don't know. I don't want to sound like a politician. You going back and forth. I don't know. We don't know. I don't know. But it's awkward that somebody who's been investigated have a final say of turning over documentations to the committee. But at the same time, is it privacy that he's searching for other folks besides himself? That's the deal.
Yeah, for me, I'm just like you. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawmaker. I don't know the rules, but to me, it seems like if you or your company is being investigated, it's up to you on whether or not you want to release the file. I don't know. It seems weird to me too. But anyway,
I guess the humanitarian clause pops in. You gotta circle. You gotta find out what's in your gut, what's in your heart. I do believe that he loved the Washington Commanders, and but at the same time, there's some things that went on that he did not like or he had no knowledge of, and he's doing an investigation of it. So then you have to go from there. I mean, it's a way above my pay grade. I tell you that.
Hey man,
I'm trying to do this stuff.
Same here. It's way above me. So man, I guess, and I think Goodell is supposed to be addressing given the state of the
state of the NFL. He does it every year at the Super Bowl. I'm hoping I leave tomorrow morning to get to the Super Bowl and hopefully get down to LA. Yeah, I'm going to LA tomorrow morning. And I'm going to try to see if I can get me some credentials to go listen to the press conference. Man, on Friday.
Here's my question to you is, if you went to that press conference and you had a chance to ask Roger Goodell a question, what would that question be? Or question?
Well, I'm gonna say, hey, Commissioner Goodell, I got Robert Burton on the phone. And
Wait a minute. Hold on, because I had something falling on the thing. Okay.
Okay.
So what would that question be?
I would say, Commissioner Goodell, I have a question for you. But first, let me take up my phone so I can get this text from Robert Burton back in Washington, D.C. He wanted me to ask you this question. So what question would you have me to ask him?
I mean, it basically would be like, when is the NFL going to see a substantial change? And the thing about it is, and I know I'm interviewing you here, but I was kind of having this discussion at work yesterday. Is we talk about even John Thompson from Georgetown. I remember I saw a clip from him a long time ago, and he said he was like, I'm so tired of the John Thompsons and the Tubby Smiths and the black coaches that have to be almost perfect, like you said, to keep their job. And he's waiting on the black coaches that can mess up, like maybe the Rick Pitino's who mess up, but they still get a shot, or the John Calipari's who get caught up in drama, or or like I remember when Cliff Kingsbury got hired out of Texas Tech a while ago.
Tech,
And I don't remember him having a great record at Texas Tech, but they hired him. And then, I can't think of the black coach that I saw that had an amazing record. It was maybe a mid-major school or something like that. But I'm like, what about this guy? And that it's kind of gone on too long, man. And the NFL always talks about we're changing this and we're doing that.
Diversity.
And even the Rooney Rule is just to, like you said, it's just we're doing this just so we can get the guys in here.
Again, the question you ask is when? When will these other billionaire owners come together and say, listen, let's make the right choice? Now, they billionaires for a reason, and they built their businesses the way they built it. Familiarity, sometimes familiarity gets in the way of their success. But again, if you see that you have some great offense and defense coordinators who are African Americans, they need to say, let's come to grips and go for it, give it a shot, But at the same time, let's just, I don't know, do fans play a role in that? Some of the fans don't think in these major cities that an African American coach can lead a team to the promised land. But case in point, Levy Smith did it with Chicago. Tony Dungy did it with the Indianapolis Colts, and Tomlin did it with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it can happen, but we want to have that diversity, and they say you want a better man for the job. But again, it could fall back into the owner saying, I'm familiar with this and I want this to happen for my organization. Mm-hmm. And went to the point like, okay, you can do good and you can win. You can have a win-win by having an African-American coach who's a winner, who's a proven winner. We'll give him a shot on your team,
Yeah, and the thing is it's not, we don't just want black coaches to be on the sidelines just because they're black. It's just a fair opportunity. That's all it is.
It's like what Herm Edwards said when he was with the Jets. He said, you play to win the game, right? And who was it? Jerry Glanville said, I'll be bagging groceries and you keep making plays like you keep making calls like this when he said it to a referee, again, but give the African American coaches the opportunity to go out there and show that but not only just give them the opportunity, but give them the time to build a culture. And you have longevity, case in point, going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers with Tomlin.